His Secret Business, a story by E.B.'s Heart. I was watching as my parents were sitting on the floor in our living room, crying and gritting their teeth. "This is 6 months already and Ella is not yet back," my father asked while holding his chest. My husband bent over to console him while I paced about, throwing questions at the 2 police officers before us. "How can my sister disappear into thin air? We need answers," I fumed. My very supportive husband held me and wept with me. Few minutes later, my father started foaming from his mouth and choking. "He is having a heart attack," my husband shouted. "Get the car keys," my mother shouted too. Within a few minutes, we were all seated at the hospital waiting room, all in deep thought. After some minutes, my husband sent me home to get some food for my father. I didn't know that he was sending me home because the doctor had just told him that my father was dead, and he didn't want to tell me right away. So I drove home with speed, my thoughts scattered all over the place. I got home around 8 p.m. and saw our front door slightly open. Even in the midst of the chaos, I knew something was wrong and that there was an intruder. I brought out a spanner from the boot of my car and approached our door slowly. I knew my husband's workers had left. They all leave around 6 p.m., except a few nights when my husband loads and transports his shipments, then they will work until morning. My husband produces and distributes fancy bags in large quantity. His factory was right behind our house inside the same compound. Help me please," I heard the most chilling thing I have ever heard as I approached the door. "Run away, save yourself," a voice rang in my head. But I couldn't run back. It was as if something was pushing me forward, urging me to see who the intruder was. I slowly peeped into our door and looked, but saw nothing because everywhere was dark. "You must help me," the voice said again in the most chilling way that sent cold down my spine. "Who is there?" I shouted with a shaky voice. But there was no response, only silence and ragged breathing echoed. "Whoever you are, come out now. I am calling the police," I shouted again, trying to be brave, even though my shaky voice was betraying me. I managed to put the light on and saw a trail of blood on the floor. My heart sank as my shaky hands tightened on the spanner that I was holding even more. "Come out now, whoever you are," I said again. Then I heard coughing and sobbing at the same time and almost passed out. "You must help me. I am dying," the intruder managed to say. I followed the sound of the voice and noticed that the voice was coming from the small compartment under the staircase. I became even more terrified. That compartment was permanently sealed by my husband. How did this intruder enter there? I thought while I still moved forward. The blood was even more pronounced as I moved closer to the compartment. I put my phone torch on because the compartment area was always dark. My husband did not put light around there. Then I saw something, or someone, that looked very dirty rear their head out of the compartment. I screamed in shock because I thought I had just seen a zombie. The dirty cloth, rough hair, and blooded body was something out of a horror movie. "Leave me alone," I shouted and fell down on the floor, shuffling backwards with my butt. Then the person said something that broke me completely. "It's me, Ella. Save me, please." That was when I recognized the voice. Her voice was sounding so tired and hoarse, making it difficult to recognize. I rushed closer and looked at the person I thought was a zombie. And behold, it was Ella, my only surviving sibling. I pulled her out but noticed that she had just one hand and there was a number stamp on her forehead. I cried. What? I tried to ask, but the words got stuck in my mouth. "Zick. It was Zick, your husband. He did it. Please save us." "Us?" I tried to ask, but my sister fainted in that instant. Just then I heard a horn and my husband's voice shouting my name. He remembered he made a mistake by sending me home alone, so he drove home to stop me. But with my sister in my hands, almost lifeless, and me peeing on my body due to tension, I didn't know what to do. "Dami," my husband called out my name again in a louder voice. I didn't know how I got the strength to actually push my sister back into the compartment and closed the small door. I then stood up and entered the visitors' toilet downstairs and locked myself. My heart was pounding in my chest like a loudspeaker. Dami, I heard my name for the fourth time. But I didn't answer. I couldn't answer even if I wanted to. Then everywhere fell silent while my husband's footsteps echoed through the living room slowly but steady. He has seen the blood. I know he has seen the blood, I murmured to myself. How do I explain the blood? I thought. I need to act and act fast. The blood must come from me. He must never know that I have seen Ella, I thought while I vibrated with sobs. I couldn't hold myself once I mentioned Ella. I heard him say something, as if he was warning Ella or somebody else. Dami, he shouted again. That was when a thought came to my mind and I quickly used the pin in my earring to tear a part of my leg and blood started streaming down. I waited while Zik ran out the house, opening and closing doors. When I realized that enough blood had come out of my leg, I screamed and fell on the floor hard. Zik ran to the toilet that I was in, where my scream had come from, and started kicking the door. He was kicking it while I shook with fear. Then he left. I could hear his footsteps going out. I started crying and wishing I could disappear. Then a loud bang came on the door and it flung open. Oh, Dami. Zik rushed to check my pulse. I don't know how, but he felt that my pulse was weak. So he carried me to the living room and kept me on the couch. That was when he saw the blood trickling down my leg. Oh, you are hurt. Did someone attack you? What happened? He asked as he shook me. When I didn't wake up, he thought I had fainted and left me alone. Come to my house now, I heard him say on the phone while I watched in shock. When he turned, I closed my eyes, praying to all the things that I know, including to my late brother, to come and save me. I shut my eyes again as I could hear him coming towards me. What happened to you, Dami? Why is there blood everywhere and even on your leg? He asked while he removed dirt from my face. I didn't know how long, but it didn't take long before I heard a horn at our gate and someone driving in. What is going on? Why did you call, boss? A man's voice startled me. Oh, I recognized that voice, I thought, and started shaking. That was my husband's manager. What is he doing here? Are they in it together? I thought while my hands shook quietly. Come, we need to send this shipment tonight. Something came up, my husband said while he opened the door for his manager. They were about to walk out when Mewtwo, my husband's manager, said something that shocked me even more. Why is your wife here and you are trying to clear the shipment? Won't she tell? Don't worry, she is unconscious. Let's do this fast. People will be trooping in here soon because I just lost my father-in-law, and I want everywhere to be clear for now, my husband said as they both walked away. My father, dead, I cried silently and cleaned my tears. Now is not the time for tears, I whispered to myself. I got up once they left and looked at the window to see them opening the giant gate of the factory and going in. I quickly got into our kitchen, took the sharpest kitchen knife, and ran out to see what they were about to do. Something was pushing me to see what was going on. I slipped into the large compound that my husband uses for production and hid under his spoilt truck. Lock the gate, Mewtwo. We have work to do, I heard my husband command his manager. As Mewtwo was about to lock the gate, my husband told him to wait. I need to lock the door of the main house, in case my wife wakes up, so that she can't come out of the house until I open the door for her, my husband said and walked out of the gate. I was still under the truck sobbing due to fear when my husband ran back into the factory compound and shouted, Mewtwo, we have a problem. My wife knows something. She is gone. I saw the gate open, she can't run that far yet. Come on, let's get her. Mewtwo ran out like a mad dog and I could hear the gate open and a car engine starting. Once the car left and I heard them close the gate, I crawled out of hiding, determined to know what my husband was hiding inside the factory. I lifted the kitchen knife that I had brought earlier up, praying not to see something that would harm me. As I was approaching slowly, I heard the gate to the factory compound close and Mewtwo's voice startling me. Apparently, my husband had asked him to search the compound well while he searched the street alone. Oh, you are awake, Mewtwo said and started calling my husband to come back. I found her inside the factory compound, I heard Mewtwo say on the phone to my husband. We will add her to this shipment. Let me prepare her like the others, Mewtwo said and cut the call. He brought a knife and smiled at it. I didn't know what to do, so I hid the knife in my hand behind my back while I begged Mewtwo. Please don't do this. Imagine if I were your sister, I said while moving backwards. He looked at me and stopped smiling. I could see his face squeeze in a frown even though everywhere was somehow dark. My wife found out and I sold her to your husband. Why do you think I will spare you? This is what we do. We have a long network of people that control us. Your husband is just one of them. There are so many people involved, so don't push it. How do you think Zik funds your lifestyle? By making cheap bags? He laughed. You have lived in this house for a whole 2 years and never cared to know how the so-called bags your husband makes are made, Mewtwo said and started coming towards me. I gasped and fell on the ground, pretending to have fainted. He rushed towards me with a hiss and said, "Silly woman, who told you fainting will save you?" He put his knife back and bent over to carry me up. That was when I plunged the sharp knife that I was holding into his heart. "Dami, what have you done?" Mewtwo said and flung me to the ground while he staggered away. Blood was pumping everywhere and I stood up from the ground freaking out. I ran out of the factory compound and headed toward the main gate to escape. As I was getting close to the gate, I heard the sound of my husband's car stopping at the gate. I immediately turned to go back, but something told me to lock the gate so that my husband would not be able to get inside again. As I ran towards the gate, my husband closed his car door and was coming to the gate to open it from the outside. So I managed to jam the small gate immediately and fiddle with the bolt due to my shaky hands. Then finally, the gate was locked. My husband immediately pushed the gate as he heard the sound it made. "Mewtwo, open up, it's me," he said while I shook and moved backwards silently. "Mewtwo, Mewtwo," my husband called out and started calling his phone. I quickly ran to the factory compound to make sure Mewtwo didn't pick his call. But when I got there, I didn't see Mewtwo again. I panicked and ran to the main house to look for my phone, but it was nowhere to be found. I ran upstairs to our room to use our hidden emergency landline. I dialed the only number I have off heart, my cousin brother's number. But there was no sound. It felt like I was pressing a toy phone. I looked behind the telephone and saw no wires. That was when it dawned on me that Zik, my husband, took my phone and even disconnected the landline in case I woke up and tried to use them. No, I climbed to the balcony facing the street and was shouting for help from there, but no one heard and no one came because our house was a large compound with many buildings inside it. And I have never seen anyone coming out of the 2 compounds closest to us before. The compounds beside us on both sides were always dead quiet and in darkness. I was still pacing about in the balcony when I heard Zik's voice. "Dami, no one would hear you. I own almost all the houses in this street and they are all empty, housing my goods, so there is no escaping for you. Just let me in and we would do it the easy way." I heard my husband's voice very close to the fence. I decided to hide in the factory compound since there were many places to hide there. When I entered the compound, I saw Mewtwo dragging himself on the ground weakly, with the knife still stuck in his chest, while talking on the phone. "I told you to keep men in here, but you refused, saying that it might raise your wife's suspicion. Now her sister Ella has escaped." I saw her chains on the floor. Mewtwo was still talking when I angrily hit him hard on the head and he was silent. I then ran inside the factory. The sight that greeted me made me fall to the ground wailing. People in chains with numbers printed on their foreheads just like Ella. I had managed to lock the gate to the factory from the inside after hitting Mewtwo, so my husband, who had come in after jumping the fence, was at the gate, banging his hand on the gate to open. And from the voices and the conversations that I was hearing, he was not alone. He had called his other workers to come. I went closer to the captives who wore the same uniform as Ella and looked so weak. They were weak from the drugs they gave to them. "Oh Ella, you came back for us," one of the captives said and held my hand weakly. They all thought I was Ella. I smiled and told them yes. But your hand. Has it grown back? One man amongst them asked while looking at me in confusion. I was about to ask what happened to my sister's hand when we heard a very loud bang. They are here to take us. Each of us here have been sold off, the man continued. Zik was my friend and customer in the market, or so I thought. Then he lured me here and he has sold my organs to some wealthy men. I am just waiting to be delivered, the man said and shook his head. Ella, you look stronger and healthier now, so you can run. All of us here cannot even stand, even if they remove the heavy chains on our legs. Ella was chained in just one hand after they cut the other hand. That was why it was a bit easier for her to escape. So go. Follow the tunnel we asked you to follow before, the man said and attempted to raise his hand to point at a small black door. Follow there and run. This tunnel leads outside, I am sure of it, because they always bring people in from there. The man continued talking and coughing. I ran to the door and pushed it, and it opened with a creaking sound. I could hear my husband's voice and the continuous banging on the gate. You are not Ella. I know you are not her. Zik cut off her hand to silence her because she couldn't stop talking, the man said and faced away while sobbing. I met her and the others here when I came in 4 months ago. She was strong and believed she could save us all. The others, who were so weak to react, started pleading for me to save them when they saw the tunnel open. I will come back for all of you, just trust me, I said and jumped inside. Immediately I closed the door. Zik barged inside and shouted, Dami, Dami, come out now. Come out because I will butcher you when I find you myself. I started running while inside the tunnel. Load the shipment, I heard my husband order. The shipment were human beings. I started crying when I heard that. How could I not know what Zik was doing? We have been married for 2 years now and I live in this house. I was crying while my mind went back to when I first visited him. I remembered he was transporting a truck every night. He would always tell me then that he was shipping his goods. So this is the goods. I thought and cried even more. He has always made sure I was never alone at home. Little did I know what he was into. Human trafficking. To the extent that he took my own blood sister. I started gasping for breath when I remembered Ella. She was still locked inside that stairs compartment. I couldn't save her. I couldn't save Ella, I cried. What do I tell Mommy? Oh God, what do I tell Mommy? I began crying again. I was still squatting there and crying when I heard a bang like a door closing and footsteps running towards me inside the tunnel. I picked myself up and started running again. I was almost passing out when I felt something heavy land on my head and I passed out. I woke up in an unfamiliar room in the morning. Where am I? I cried and tried to stand up, but I noticed that I was handcuffed to the bed. Help! Help! Where am I? I shouted in a loud voice. The door opened and a man walked in with a frown. She is awake, he announced, and 2 other men came in with him. You handcuffed me. I did nothing, I said boldly. You are one of them, the traffickers. We have been on their trail for years now, until our intel who escaped months ago told us about a tunnel and how to get there. He died the next moment after talking to us due to exhaustion. I looked at them as if I understood nothing they were saying. Traffickers? I don't understand what you mean. Our second intel is inside now. He is wearing a chip, and the chip has been at a place for months now, so we are suspecting that he is dead. We have been waiting for their shipment to intercept them, the man that came in first said while looking straight into my eyes. We want you to tell us what is going on in there. This is the first time since we started observing them that anyone has ever run away from them looking fit. So we want to be sure you are not one of them. Tell us what is going on in there. I started crying when I found out they were really not part of them. I had thought Zik sent them. My sister is still in there, I said in tears. Please save her. You are obviously not a victim because you look okay. So tell us who you are and what you were running away from, the man that looked like their boss asked me with a frown. I am Dami, Zik's wife, I stammered. They all looked at themselves and stood up. But he wanted to sell me too, I said immediately. I sensed their uneasiness. He kidnapped my sister who visited me 6 months ago, and I found out yesterday night about my sister, and he has been pursuing me to kill me. I explained myself while wailing. We want an evidence to capture them. Any evidence, their boss said impatiently. My sister Ella is hiding in the compartment under the stairs inside the main house, unconscious. So you can get a search warrant and I will take you directly to where she is, I said, smiling with anticipation. The men quickly got a search warrant, and we all drove to my house. When we got there, we saw no one except my husband. He was about to drive out. Oh Dami, where have you been? I have been looking for you, he said and tried to come to me. I shouted for the men to keep him away. We have a search warrant to search every inch of your property, the main man said to Zik, who seemed unbothered because he had cleared his property of all his kidnapped victims. Quickly, the men scattered all over the property and were searching everywhere. Even the factory was searched, but no trace of anyone was seen there. They came out and shook their heads. We saw nothing or anyone, the men told their boss, looking disappointed. Come with me, I said in almost a whisper. Zik became uncomfortable when I said that. He was thinking of what I could show them. I took them to the stairs compartment inside our house and tried to open it. Nothing is there. We have not opened that place in years, so there is nothing to see there. Zik was talking and almost shouting when the men managed to open the compartment. They saw her, my Ella, weak and almost without a pulse. But when they looked up, they didn't see Zik again. He had run out of the house quietly when he heard Ella's name. Zik may have thought that I escaped with Ella, that was why he never thought that she would be here. Go after him. I shouted at them, but they didn't answer me. I ran to the gate to pursue him myself, but I saw about 10 policemen with guns standing around the gate while 2 of the officers were holding my husband Zik. Kill me. I don't want to go to court, Zik cried. But they hit him on the head and pushed him into their car. I cried tears of joy and wanted to go inside and at least change, but the men told me it was no longer possible for me to access the building. We are sealing it off as kidnappers' den, and the house will be demolished later. I left my house with nothing but my life and my sister's life. Ella was rushed to the hospital, and she survived, but with just one arm and many scars on her body. When I told my mother all that happened, she almost fell down while she was jumping and screaming in fear. She couldn't believe that Zik, her son-in-law who had built a house for her, started a business for her, was a kidnapper. That explains the wastage of money, the too much traveling, and luxurious lifestyle, my mother said and wept bitterly. My sister regained herself after some days, but with one arm. She told me they cut off her hand because she was being stubborn, and to warn others and scare them into being quiet. My sister told me she had escaped that night from a small opening in the fence, which made her sustain many injuries on her body. She told me she was kidnapped at the motor park by my husband's men. They said one of their victims who was my age died, and they needed a fast replacement. My father was buried later, and Zik was sentenced to 50 years in prison. It was later that I also heard that Mewtwo's corpse was found inside a garbage bag right inside the factory. Apparently he died from my stab. When you marry, try to know what your partner is actually doing for money. Don't just sit and spend cash that you don't know how it is made. Be involved in your partner's business.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.